Hey everybody, it's Mo Bunnell, your host here at Real Relationships, Real Revenue. Having a blast with Maria Kelly. Maria is a former senior executive at Sotheby's, the high-end art auctioneer, and now she's off on her own with a thriving business helping small and medium businesses get better. And both of those perspectives together are really powerful. And when you combine that with the way Maria thinks, boy, this episode, the one we taped that's before this one, the three coming up after it, this one, they are fantastic. Some of the best content we've ever created, and Maria was at the core of all that. So we'll get to that in a second. Know that if you're busy and if you have to deepen relationships, then if you can get our new thought piece. It's called High Impact Relationship Deepeners. It's the top 7 ways you can deepen relationships in 5 minutes or less. Really powerful. Everybody's loving this thought piece. All you have to do to get it, there's no charge. Head over to growbigplaybook.com, growbigplaybook.com, sign up there. It takes a couple seconds and you'll be good to go. You're going to love it. All right, here is Maria Kelly. Hey everybody, it's Mo Bunnell, your host here at Real Relationships, Real Revenue. I have a treat for you. This is our second episode with Maria Kelly. Maria is a former senior executive at Sotheby's. She's now on her own. She's got her own thriving business, talking to small and medium-sized CEOs to take their businesses to the next level. And Maria, your perspective from being in big, complex organizations and now working with growing organizations that are going to become very, very big. It's just really cool. And that last episode we had was just chock full of insight. So big question in this second episode is, you've had so much success developing trust, becoming an advisor to others, being able to grow a book of business and then leading others to do the same. What is your personal definition of business development?
I think business development is about creating opportunities and creating value for with another human being. I think that's what's really important for me. For me it's about people. It always goes back to people. Just so you know, Mo. So I think it's about working with somebody else and creating those opportunities and values together, and that's what makes it fun and interesting, right?
Yeah, and that is so that this I think this is why we get along so great, because my definition is very similar. And a lot of times people have the negative definition. So let's say you're coaching somebody and they've got that negative, and I'll use air quotes here for our audio listeners, so I'm doing that. Let's say that somebody's got in their head, I didn't join this profession to sell, and I'm using the S word very specifically because of the negative connotation it can have. To push myself on others. Maybe they're not leaning into creating value or future opportunity. What do you say to somebody like that to get them transitioned over to the bountiful definition that you shared?
Yeah, I think I would get them to see that how they're, first of all, look at how they're offering their services to their clients. I would get them. I would look at that with them to understand where they feel that this is too salesy or aggressive, and then try and give back value to what they're actually offering their clients for them, because often people don't see their own value. And I think that's not just in business development, I think it's in general. So I think it's about understanding what value you're bringing to the table as a specialist, an expert, or business person, and giving back value to that value, right? And take the confidence that you have in what you're doing and bring it to the client and show them how you can add value to them with what you're bringing. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. So I like what you did there, is just to get the person centered on the impact they can have someone else. And then as you do that, let's say it's a lawyer, that to get them excited about that they're a very specific type of IP lawyer, and the way that they file patents and their knowledge of the biopharma industry or whatever is like really, really unique. Get them focused on the value they provide. And then what would you do after that? Would you focus on getting that idea of creating opportunities and value, being helpful, maybe proactive? What would be your next step if they said, you know what, I do good stuff. So if you get them to where they realize their value, what's your step after that?
I think what you just said about thinking about how you then create this value and how you present it, because I think it's also a lot down to the presentation, right? It's you can say the same thing. Two people can say exactly the same thing, and it can be taken in a very different way. So I think it's about how you approach the client, in whether it's your attitude, whether it's in how you phrase your emails, whether it's what you're bringing to the table when you are going to see the client. And I think there's something about being genuine and wanting to be really helpful and being authentic. And I know that word's been thrown around lots lately, but there is something about believing in having I don't know what the word is, maybe believing in what you're offering, and believing that you're trying to do it for the right reasons, having the right motive when you walk into that room, not just thinking about the cash. And somewhere it can be about the cash, but it can't be just about the cash, because the client will see that.
Yeah. So go deeper. I want you to go deeper on this idea of somebody could say the same thing, but the way it's communicated, the way it's received is in completely different ways. So I know it might be difficult right on the spot, but do your best. Like, what are two different versions of that, or how? What are examples of what was in your mind around that? Because I think this is really important.
Um, well, I mean, email is a perfect example, right? Because email is it can be very, very easily misconstrued, and how, depending even of the person receiving it, right? You can be
Yep.
in a
Yep.
bad mood, get an email that means, that's just very normal, and that you'd receive another day and just take it really badly. So I think it's about there's something about being specific in what you're trying to say to people, in the way, and also, I mean, I think it's not just all about business. You also have to show your human side, and there has to be a bit of humanity, whether it's in your communication or when you're speaking with people. Your client's a human being too. They have a good days, they have bad days, they have stressful days. And I think about being empathic, listening to your client before talking, because that's a big one also, where lots of people, I mean, the salesy type is typically someone who goes in and just yabby, 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 and has
Yep.
absolutely no interest in what the client really wants. And which is a bit of a stereotype, but yeah. And so I think there's lots of little things you can do to come across differently when you're trying to communicate exactly the same thing to the client. But it's about your body language, it's about your attitude, it's about how you how you act with them and listen to them or talk over them.
Well, right. And I think one thing that's interesting about you, and I remember this distinctly, even though it was years ago when we were together in trainings, but you have in HBDI terms, a lot of some of our audience will know this and some won't, but the Hermit brain dominance instrument, four major ways people think, two opposing pairs, analytical versus empathic thinking, big and strategic versus very practical and step by step kind of thinking. And those four things create the four major ways people think based on the physiological structure of the brain. You can take an assessment, which we do in our trainings, and get results, things like that. So, boy, was that a fast version of what is usually 3 hours. But Maria, one thing I remember about you is you're a 1-1-1-1, meaning you're almost equal in all four. So even when you were just talking there, some people, what you just said in a very short amount of time makes sense to you because you think in all four very quickly and moving for all those between all those ways of thinking. But somebody who's a very deep technical expert, they might think very much primarily in statistics and numbers, cash, money, ROI, things like that. And it might be very difficult for them to think to add something to an email that's not about business, that
Mhm.
might be about asking, just simply asking how somebody's holiday went that they told you they were going on. So what's your advice, being sort of equal in thinking in the four major ways people think, what's your advice on making emails, communications, Zoom calls, pitches, sort of hit all four ways of thinking? How do you think about that?
Well, I think it's about being thoughtful. First of all, it's like not just writing an email. Um, As you say, for me, it's a bit natural, but I think you first have to be aware of how you are, right? And it's either you have to have done this test, or somebody must have has had to tell you. It's about some self awareness about how you communicate and how you come across. So I think that's a good start. And then it's also about knowing who you're speaking to, right? It's who's your audience. If you know the person you're speaking to, and you know that this person is, as you said, very analytical. Make sure that you're talking numbers, that you're not just talking about all the fluffy fun stuff, and that will go completely over their head. So yeah, I think it's about being thoughtful, about self awareness, and about knowing who you're speaking to. And if you don't know this person, I think it's about thinking about how you could word whatever communication you have to be able to hit all the four zones.
Yeah, yeah, and for everybody, there's much more in the snowball system on this. And how do you pick up? We do this in our trainings too, but how do you pick up the clues of how somebody's communicating? When do they noticing, being aware of when they lean in, when they get excited, when they get passionate? Are they passionate about those numbers and they want to know what your fees are in the first 5 minutes of a Zoom call or a coffee chat? Or do they want to really talk about family and get to know you personally, or strategic and practical, or the other two? But being aware of these, and then being able to shift the way we communicate and adapt to them, we're in effect sort of speaking their language. And Maria, I've seen you do that in rooms, boardrooms with your internal colleagues, and be able to almost be the translator. Well, I think what James is saying in this, and I think what Christoph means is that, and you're the person that's the glue that's pulling everybody together. And I know you do that with your clients. So one last big question, now these days you're now working with small and medium businesses. You're helping very successful people take their businesses to the next level, which could have an internal component. It could have an external component. So when you think about, where we started in this episode, if business development is about creating opportunities and value in a future way where sort of everybody wins and driving towards that positive future, how do you do that with the CEOs of already successful businesses?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it depends what their objectives are. Like, what are they trying to accomplish? But it's very specific to each person, right? So I think for me, it's about getting to know the person I'm working with, like understanding, where their blind sides are. What are they not seeing that's not working? So it could be that they're not aware, they're not self-aware. It could be that they're having issues with their teams and they don't realize it. So for me, it's about taking those, it's a blindfolders it's called, off, and helping them to see what is not working, and what is maybe holding them back from moving forward. Because often I think, and it happens a lot with small business owners who've suddenly had lots of success. So they've gone, very quickly grown, the business has exploded, they have all these employees, and things have gone much quicker than they were expecting, and much quicker than they could actually manage. And that's where things fall through the cracks, and that's where things go sideways, because they can't focus on everything, they focus on one thing. And so I think that's where I try and help them and see, what needs to be fixed, put back on the right road, and just help them, guide them onto how to do that. And based on what they also want to accomplish. Obviously, it's based on their goals and their objectives.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And what's neat about, we chatted a little bit about your ability to think in all those four major ways, your ability to drive growth at large organizations, at smaller ones within departments, things like that. So I feel like you're perfectly suited to help them, because you're going to be able to intuitively go say, oh, wow, well, this person's driven a lot of success economically, but their team is burnt out. Or, wow, they've got this amazing set of client relationships, but they're not charging enough. Or like your ability to be able to see the entire business as a whole, partially based on your, tremendous experience that I've seen you work in, but also this idea of being able to think in all four ways so quickly, vacillating to the right one, take those blinders off for the person, like you said. I could see you being able to do that really well, and be a great advisor. And for our audience, that's what you need to do. If as a watcher or listener to the show, It's the classic quote, Marshall Goldsmith's quote, what got you here won't get you there. If you can be always thinking about what, where do I need to go? What are my objectives? And one of the mantras we say is you've got to cut to climb. So if you can do an assessment and be able to say, I want to lop off some things I've been doing so I can free up time to do new things that'll take me to the next level. That's what all of you can do, and that's what Maria's helping people do now. So, all right, Maria, so that'll close out this episode. Where should people go to connect with you, to say thank you for being on the show, to ask you a question, anything else?
The best place to find me is on my website, which is askmariakelly.com. And I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Good. And that's AskMaria, is how you spell Maria, and KELLY.com. And we'll put those links in the show notes, everybody, so you can click on them easily. So if you're driving right now, or you're on the train or whatever, when you get back and you can actually see the show, we'll put those in the show notes. Maria, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Mo.